Hi, welcome to another interesting class in data processing. My name is Sani Kana. Our topic today is history of computers. I love history. I hope you do. Let's begin. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to 1. Identify the 5 generations of computers and describe the features of each generation of computers. Before we go into the history of computer, let's take a look at what a computer is. A computer is a device that processes, calculates, and operates based on given instruction. Today, we can use computer to do many things. For example, we can use computers to play games. We can use computers to watch videos. We can use computers to type documents. We can use computers to send email. We can also use computers to browse the internet and many more. However, this was not so from the beginning. The first generation computers could not do as much as the present day computers. Why? Because they were built differently. Now, you may ask, what exactly is a generation? A generation can be said to be the changes or improvement made on a product over a period of time. In this regard, we can say the different changes made on a computer technology over a period of time is termed as a generation. Now we can say we have 5 generations of computers, namely first generation, second generation, third generation, fourth generation, and finally the 5th generations of computers. Now let's go on to look at each and every generation of computers in detail. Now, the first generation of computers existed between 1940 to 1956. Basically, this set of computers use vacuum tubes and magnetic drums for memory. A vacuum tube is an electronic device that controls the flow of electrons in a vacuum. It is also called an electron tube or valve. Now, let's see some examples of the first generation computers. Some examples of first generation computers include the ENIAC, the EDVAC, the UNIVAC, the IBM 701, and finally, the IBM 650. These are some of the examples of the first generation computers. Now, let's move on to look at the second generation of computers. The second generation of computers existed between 1956 to 1963. One of the remarkable discoveries that birthed the second generation computers was the discovery of transistors. The use of transistors replaced the use of vacuum tubes in the second generations of computers. You may ask, what is a transistor? A transistor is an electronic device that works by controlling the flow of electrical current. The use of transistors in the second generation of computers enabled the second generation of computers to become more reliable and also to perform more difficult calculations than the first generation of computers. Going on, the second generation of computers use computer languages like COBOL and Fortran for coding. And for storage, they used magnetic cores, tapes, and disks. And now, let's look at some examples of this generation of computers. They include IBM 1401, IBM 1790. We also have the UNIVAC 1004. And lastly, we have the Atlas. These are examples of the second generation of computers. Now, let's move on to see the third generation of computers. Between the year 1964 to 1971, the third generation of computers was invented. In this generation, the use of transistors was replaced by integrated circuits. An integrated circuit known as IC is a chip or microchip found on the computer circuit board that can hold hundreds to millions of transistors, resistors, and capacitors. Some examples of this generation of computers are 1. The IBM 360 series. 2. The UNIVAC 1100. 3. The PDP, which is Personal Data Processor. 4. CDC 600. Also, the Honeywell 200 series. And finally, we also have the IBM 370 or 168. These are some of the examples of the third generation of computers. Now we move on to the fourth generation of computers. In this generation, microprocessors were introduced. And these microprocessors consist of thousands of integrated circuits. Now, let's move on to see some of the examples of fourth generation of computers. They include number 1, Star 1000. Number 2, Cray X MP. Also number 3, PDP 11. And finally, the DEC 10. These are some of the examples of the fourth generation of computers. And now, this leads us to the fifth generation of computer, which is the current and modern generation of computers. The fifth generation of computers has been in existence from the year 2010 till date. Although we still use technology from the fourth generation of computers. The fifth generation of computers is the present and the future of computers, with respect to the introduction of AI. Going on, they also use the ultra-large scale integration technology of microprocessor chips, which are built with millions of other electronic components. Some examples are desktop. Number 2, laptop. Number 3, notebook. Number 4, ultrabook. And finally, Chromebook. These are examples of the fifth generation of computers. It is also important to note that the different improvements and changes made on computers have made computers become more reliable, smaller, faster, and generate less heat. We've come to the end of this lesson, but before we go, let's take a look at the summary. First, we learned that a computer is a device that processes, calculates, and operates based on instructions given to it. Secondly, we also learned that a generation of computer can be described as the different advancement of computer technology made over time. There are 5 generations of computers, and they include first generation of computers. They use thousands of vacuum tubes and magnetic drums for memory. The second generation of computers used transistors. Thirdly, the third generation of computers use integrated circuits. The fourth generation of computers, thousands of integrated circuits were built onto a single silicon chip known as microprocessor. Fifth generation of computers. This generation of computers make use of ultra large scale integration technology of microprocessor chips built with millions of other electronic components. And finally, the fifth generation of computers are basically the computers presently in use. They are smaller, way faster, and can carry out very complex tasks. Don't be in a hurry to leave. I have some test questions for you. Question 1. How many generations of computers are there? A. 5. B. 4. C. 3. D. 2. And the correct answer is A. Let's try out one more question. Question 2. Dash were used to develop the fourth generation of computers. A. Transistors. B. Vacuum tubes. C. Microprocessors. D. Magnetic tubes. And the correct answer is C. Microprocessors. Now, this is where I leave you for this class until I come your way again. Bye-bye.